Muse is a web building site, and what's nice about it is not the same as Dreamweaver. Dreamweaver's been around for quite a while and is a real power horse for building very robust websites, but it requires people who know how to code. And Muse was developed so that a lot of the same people who were designing the look of these websites could actually implement it very easily. So there's a lot of drag and drop going on, but there's HTML being generated in the background. So we're going to just go through a couple of things here, and then I'm going to just take you through a kind of a preliminary website, and then I want to show you a couple of the features that make things much easier. One feature is going to be just a little bit more challenging, but I thought it'd be fun if anybody wants to join in. So if you have the files, we're going to go to the file menu and just choose new site, because it's so easy to create a brand new site. We'll just go through the steps of that. I'm going to make the web page 960 is fine, 500 is fine too. We're going to leave that sticky footer. We're going to place more than one column, because I'm going to use those columns as a grid to help me build this site. So I'm going to put in 9 columns. And if you want your website to be accessible, not accessible, but to really look good on a Retina display, you might want to choose high DPI 2 times, but we can leave it at standard right now for the moment. And we're going to go ahead and click OK. Immediately you see something that resembles kind of the interface of InDesign. We have our page, but then we also have our master page. And anything that I put on this master page is going to appear on any body page or any web page that is based on this master page. So it makes it real easy to make global changes. So for example, if I double click on that master, I have a set of library items here. Let's bring those in really quick. Okay? So if you've already put several assets together, photographs, logos, things that you want to have accessible inside of Muse, you can import things one by one, but you can also bring in a whole library. So I'm going to go to the bottom left-hand corner, click on the Import Muse Library button, and navigate to that folder that says Start Muse First Site, and there should be a CC Getting Started Katie's.mulib, so that's Muse Library, right? Go ahead and click Open. It's imported 7 library items. You can view them in design mode in your library panel. So we'll go ahead and click OK. I'm going to turn down that little triangle, and I can see I have several things that have already been dragged into place in my library, which I'll be able to make use of. Okay. This is different than the one I've been doing lately, so let's just start putting some stuff together here. I'm on a master, and I'm going to take my rectangle tool and I'm going to draw a box across the top. And I'm going to fill it with a background color that's not white. So going across the top, you see we have this control panel. There's one that's called Fill. And I'm just going to choose one of these light brown colors for the moment. And when I come out of that, to get rid of that box that is dropped down, just go ahead and click the Fill button again, and that pops back up. And now with my selection tool, I'm just going to modify this a little bit. And I want to be sure that when somebody's viewing my site on a 27-inch monitor versus a small device, that brown box is going to extend always the full width of that browser. So I have a button here, right here, and if you hover over it, it says 100% width. And when you click on that, it's going to pop to that, and not only will it pop to my existing page, it will continue to stretch on a larger monitor if that person's web browser is going out. Now I'm going to close a master just by clicking on that little close X next to the name a master, and I can see that already, without my doing anything to this home page, that I've got this brown box going across the top. To rename these, so my A master doesn't really tell anybody what's on that, I'm going to double click the word A master and change that to main. For home, I guess home's okay. Let's create some more pages. Go to the right, click on that button, and let's have one for menu. Click on it again. Let's put our story. And the next one, let's make sure we have a contact us page. Let's do our story. And let's bring in an image. Very easy, very similar to the InDesign format. So just go to the File menu, choose Place, and I'm going to go up to my folder that Muse files in it. And in my Assets folder, I've got this, let's do our landing page.png, see which one that is. And this one's kind of big, so if I want to bring it down a little bit, I can. And maybe I decide that I've got another logo that's more appropriate for the inner pages, so I can just copy or cut that one and put that one on the first page. And if I go back and look at the whole website, you can see that that's only on this page because I didn't add it to the master page. Now on the home page, I want to do something slightly different. I want to put an image in this. So I'm going to create a new master page that doesn't have that box across the top. I'm going to have this be the inner page, and I'm going to create a special one for the very first page. So to create an additional master page, you just click on the plus sign, and I get an additional master page just like I got for the internal pages. And I'm going to call this internal, and I'm going to apply that to these three just by dragging it over the top. That easy. Now on the internal page, I'm going to do the same thing with a box, but I'm going to make this a much darker box because I really want that logo to stand out. I'm going to bring in the interior logo, again just by File Place, pop that in. And the frame around that logo is a little bit too big for me, so I'm just going to crop some of that space out by clicking on that crop tool, which is underneath the selection tool, and just pulling that in a little bit. Let me bring that up so that I can bring this bar up a little bit. I'm going to close these. I can open them up anytime by double-clicking on the page, and I can see that now these interior pages are following the design of this internal master page. So let's go back and change the main one. I'm going to double-click on that main page, and I've decided that instead of that box that holds a, well, actually I can go ahead and leave that there. I'm going to go ahead and change that fill to none. Make sure I have a stroke of none. And instead of having that filled with just a plain color, I'm going to click on the Fill button and say that I want to fill this with an image. And there's a little hyperlink that's going to open up that Place dialog. Go ahead and click. We'll do Hero Salad. If it's the word hero, then it's probably that first page. All right. Now, I want this to fit this frame, but I want to get to first is I want to show you how easy it is to get a menu across here. So let me go back to my interior page for the moment. And I'm just going to go to my widgets library, which is where I have a lot of things that the code has already been done for us, and all we have to do is drag it out. You can see we've got buttons, compositions, forms, menus, and what I'm looking for are my menus, and I want to drag out a horizontal menu. Now when I drag this out, notice that it already has all the pages. They may not look exactly the way I want them to be, but each one of those pages has already been added to this navigation panel, and it works. The linking is already there. So I'm going to go into my states panel and just modify this a little bit. So I'm going to click on the first one, and I can see the moment I click on this, I see my 4 states, normal, rollover, mouse down, and active. And I don't like this gray background, so I'm going to change that to none. And I really would rather not have this font. I don't think it's that legible with white reversing out of brown. So I'm going to switch to my type tool, and with this selected, I'm going to change this from Georgia to one of the web fonts that I downloaded, which is Open Sans Condensed. So let's talk about this for just a moment. In Muse, we have our fonts divided up into our system fonts, starting from the bottom, web-safe fonts, which we're all used to if you've ever worked with any kind of a web situation. And then we also have these fonts called Add Web Fonts. With Muse, you have access to 500 additional web fonts that you can use by just clicking on the font, clicking OK, and it ends up loading it. Now, to put this onto your website, you just have to add a couple of lines of code, which is really easy to find. You just look that up. And you've got all kinds of variety here. And the ones that I wanted, and I added them, was this font called Open Sans. I wanted both the Open Sans and the Open Sans Condensed. And I want this to be bold. And maybe just a little bit bigger. So that's going to be my normal state. My rollover state, again, I do not want the gray background. So I'm going to go back out to my selection tool, make this none. But I might want that, I want an indication if someone mouses over that this is what they're choosing. So I need to pick a color for the fill of the type that's going to work with this background, but at the same time, I don't want it to be my active color either. So let's look over here for our fill colors, and let's say that I go with maybe this yellow. So that's now my rollover, my mouse down. I'm going to go ahead again and get rid of this fill. And then active, if that page is active, I want to be sure that it's different from all the others. So let's pick a color that's going to work with that. Go with a really dark brown. Hopefully this will stand out. If not, I'll go to like a black. That might work. Okay. So now I have my 4 states. But I'm not really crazy about the spacing on these. So I'm going to go to this little tiny menu that pops off the top of any object. And instead of the item being uniform size, I think I'd rather have the uniform spacing, because if I have an extra long page name, it's going to end up looking like it's unbalanced. So I'm going to click on that. And I'm also going to bring now the size of that in. I think there's too much space between those. All right. Let's see what this ends up looking like. Probably wouldn't hurt for me to put something on each page so you guys can see the difference. So let me just bring in an image on that page. All right, let's preview this site in the browser. I didn't put the, hang on, let me go back to Muse for a sec. Let's put this same navigation thing on the first page before I do anything else. So I'm just going to copy this, go back to my first page, place that there too, so that we have the navigation. And let's try that again. Go to menu, story, contact us. I just wanted to check these logos to make sure that they're the same. They are on all 3 of those. So without doing any additional coding, I've already got this functioning. And let's add a couple of other things. On that contact us page, I'm going to remove this. Actually, I might keep that. That might come in handy. I'm going to just put it further down the page. Notice that that stretches the page out. I'm going to bring in a Google map. So I'm going to go down to my social widgets and drag out a map. Change its size here as it's thinking. I also want to put some text above that. So I'm just going to drag out a text box and type contact us or stop by and visit. Let's change this font also to the Open Sans condensed and make it a little bit bigger. And let's change the fill to something that's a little bit closer to what that is. All right. Also, I think I want to center it within that text box, make sure that that text box goes from one side to the other, so I make sure it's completely centered. And in addition to this, I want a very simple contact form underneath Forms, and grab just a simple one. You'll notice that if I click again that little blue button on the right, I have options of adding different fields, removing different fields, including CAPTCHA. I'm going to pull this over here. Now, this typically populates this right away, but I've been having some speed issues with the Wi-Fi, and I don't know if that's part of it. I'm also going to bring that. So here's a perfect example of why these master pages are so helpful. I really don't like the fact that I've got this contact us going over too far off my page, so I'm going to go back to my master page, and I'm going to move this back over. And immediately, all my other pages, it just on that quick split second that they moved. Now, what if I add another page? So for instance, let's say after menu, I want some sort of a gallery page to just get all my scrumptious food up here. Okay. When I go now to that, so I may want to just adjust that again. And when I preview it, website. That's going to work just like the others. So there's my rollover off and select. All right, now there's something else that we have in Muse that's getting really popular for people to use. It's just slightly more complicated to do, and that's the parallax scrolling. So I'm going to try to walk us through that with just a sample. So what I would suggest for anybody who's following along is that I'm going to create a new master, and I'm going to make sure that there's nothing on it, and then I'm going to create a new page and put that there. Go to that page, and I'm going to, I think I want to try to lengthen that a little bit. So I'm going to make this closer to, let's say, 2,000 pixels. All right, I'm going to just put a couple of items down here. So let's put an image, and then I'm going to place a text box, and baked goodies. Another font that I really like up here is this one called Alex Brush. So I'm going to increase the size of that. Almost everything I've been doing so far is so similar to the other Adobe applications. It's amazing. Let's get a good color for this one. Let's say something with scrumptious berries. All right. Let's make that a little bit bigger. And just like in InDesign, I can option drag to get a copy of that. And I'm going to move this one over here. Bring in another image real quickly. And let's go for drinks. Okay. All right, let's see if I can do this without snaps on. this one to go to the right. I'm going to have this one go to the left. And then the other thing I'm going to do is between these two, I'm going to draw just a rectangle and put in some fill color. Let's go with that same kind of purple, and let's put some text in that. Oop, wrong one. You can't resist. Quickly change this. Let's change that so it reverses out. Okay. Let's start with this first one here. What I want to have happen is as the page scrolls up, I want certain items to move either left, right, up, down, or at an angle. So for the images, I want them to be static. I want them to just scroll up with this. But the text, I'd like to draw attention to that by either having the text go in towards it or go away from it. So maybe actually having it go in might be a little bit more interesting. So with that object selected, I'm going to go to Scrolling Effects. We have several different things we can do. I would say calling it kind of in the animation category. You can change its opacity. You can also do a slideshow by putting images together on top of each other. And on lynda.com, Paul Trani does a really nice example of that, which you might want to look up. And then also, if you have imported an Edge Animate, you can put a little bit more control over that. But I'm just interested in the motion right at the moment. So I'm going to turn motion on, and I immediately get this key position. So when I drag this, this is when the action is going to take place. So what the specifications I see for initial are what's going to happen before it gets to this, and then final motion is what's going to happen once I scroll to this. So until I get to this, I want this to scroll vertically at the same rate as the page is scrolling. And maybe I want this to start just a little bit sooner. Okay. But after, I still want it to continue to go at the same pace that that pastry is going, but as it's going up, I want it to move across. So I'm going to turn the left, make sure that that's the one that's identified, and I want that to move at like 1.2. So 1 is the rate of the browser, 0 means you're not going anywhere, and let's see what happens when we preview this. Okay. I need something at the top. I got to figure out something to put up there. So let's just preview this page in the browser. So we're scrolling, and as I scroll, it moves to the left. But it probably would be better if I started it sooner, which is what I'm going to find out. So let's go back to Muse. I'm going to actually center this. All right. And I'm going to move this keyframe. One of the things I'm finding as I'm playing around with this is that when that item on a normal screen, and these days what you can call normal, I don't know, but as soon as I see, for instance, baked goods down here, when I place that one, I'm probably going to put its keyframe way above here, because as soon as it's visible, I really like the motion to start with that. All right. Maybe we have it go a little bit faster. So let's change that to 1.3. All right. Now let's go down to this next one here. We'll come back to the You Can't Resist. And I'm going to select baked goods. I'm going to bring this one over to the right. So with it selected, again, I just go to Scroll Effects, click Motion, and I want to scroll here so that when I start to see this, I like it to start right after those pastries. Start moving into the coffee. So again, its initial motion, I want it to go with the coffee. I don't want it to move left or right. But then as it hits that key position, I'm going to have it go to the right at let's say, I said 1.3 with the other one, correct? So I want to keep these consistent for now, unless I have multiple objects that I want to behave differently. All right, let's try this again. File, preview page in browser. Here goes baked goods, and here come the baked goodies. Now, this one, I want to get to the top of the page. Let's see if I can do this. And then I want it to hold that position. So I don't want it to keep scrolling up. I just want it to stay so that it reminds everybody. I'm sure you cannot resist our scrumptious goodies here. So I'm going to group this together, turn on motion, and it's going to scroll. Its initial is going to scroll, but when it hits the top of this frame, I don't want it to move vertically or horizontally. I actually don't want it moving there, but I do want it moving up until then with a 1 and that 0. I think I've got that right. Let's see. I want it moving with the browser until it hits the frame, and then I want it to go static. Let's try that. Now, as I mentioned in the previous session, Paul Trani has this really nice one-page scrolling website that is really worth looking at, because what he's doing is bringing in all kinds of things like this at the same time, just to show you how you can move multiple items. And he uses this really cool butterfly thing where he has 3 butterflies that are an edge animate, but they each take off at a different time, which really engages you. But I would suggest doing one of the samples that he does, and that is he just puts 3 text blocks, puts different scroll effects on each one, and then just go back and preview that and say, oh yeah, that's what it did, that's what it did. Because it's sometimes hard to visualize with this panel exactly what's going to happen. But this is really popular. So if I duplicate this, I know we're getting short on time here. Let's put this one here and let's change its effects here. So let's say that it moves with the page till it gets to that key. Then it moves to the right. We want it, and actually I want it to go fast. I want it to go down actually. So I want it to go diagonally. So I'm going to have it go at 1.2, and then I'm going to have it go to the right. And we'll just have this one go much faster, so 1.4. All right, let's see what happens. So there they're crossing. Baked goodies should be moving at a faster rate than the top baked goodies. It's going to continue through. So now here's where layers are going to come in handy. And anybody who understands layers from Illustrator or from InDesign, this is great because you can put things in different layers so that they show up. Because maybe you do want this effect where it's going to then peek out underneath the coffee. Or maybe you want it to go across, right? So understanding layers is going to help you with that as well. But this, I'm finding more and more sites are making use of this and just really catching people's eyes, engaging them, pulling them to what the information that they want them to see. All right. Now you're aware of the add-ons, right, that you can bring down. So that was one thing I did not talk about, but we've got on the add-ons page, so within Muse, if you go to your library and you click online, this is just a quick link to get there. You can get there through the web too.
The other stuff that you can get for Adobe,
right? Right, and for InDesign, right? InDesign has add-ons too, just like the old Quark motifs. So we've got free ones, paid, all, and you can load those. So this is one that you can just add. And what's so nice about these add-ons are people have taken the time, this is a portfolio one, to put in all of this nice placeholder stuff, but it's completely customizable just by clicking and deleting it or highlighting it. So for instance, let's say I don't want that, you know, I just get rid of it. But then I can go into my Finder and I can just drop in some images. Okay, so I've got these 4. I'm just going to drag and drop them right in. So this could be their work that they've done, images of that. Each one can be identified separately. Let me give it a couple seconds to load.
Oh, it's like having a loaded brush in InDesign.
Yeah, typically it puts it in there. Now let me see when I preview this. You know, all of that is already built in, though it's customizable as well. So, I mean, for someone just trying to get something up there, it's really nice. That's the other thing about Muse is that we have the ability to, it's not completely automated, but I can go into Muse and when I go back to my site, I have the option of doing tablet and phone. You can copy those things and resize them as you know. So if you had an animation that was taking up a full screen, you would want to change that so that it would be specific.